Hi there, and welcome to Party Political Puffin. Oh God, what's gone wrong? Right. I'll just tell them what it is. There are many systems and areas that make up and shape the fabric of our society. The welfare system, education, healthcare, immigration, to name but a few. These are the systems that are supposed to allow all a way to interact with their government. As John Locke would have it, via the social contract. Some take these systems for granted, thinking of them as eternal and immutable, but are not really sure of what it is that each of them are or what they really mean in the context of society. Some are simply unaware of the facts of these subjects. Some use that lack of knowledge to fuel agendas that cause division and hatred. This series of video aims to help to give us all a basic understanding of these subjects, so that at least we'll be able to have an honest conversation about what they mean. At the very least, they should help us to identify when someone is using the language of a certain topic in order to lie to us, deceive us, and attempt to split our communities and divide the wider society. For hundreds of years, there have been those that, for myriad reasons, have moved from the land where they were born to other parts of the world. Does that sound familiar? One of the earliest examples of people fleeing from where they called home to another country is that of the French Protestant Huguenots. In 1685, Louis XIV, King of France, issued the Edict of Fontainebleau. This ended the legal recognition of Protestantism in France. The Huguenots had a choice: either convert to Catholicism or flee the country. Well, I guess there was a third option, but not one that you would really want to consider. The majority opted for the latter, becoming refugees in countries such as Germany, the Netherlands, South Africa, and England. For those in the UK, Spitalfields in England became an area to congregate for those that had fled for their lives. The Huguenots began new lives here, integrating with the English that had seen the humanitarian need to help these people. 1685. Immigration and the notion of those needing refuge. Hardly a new intervention. Of course, there are other reasons people have to run from their birth country. In addition to religious persecution, people's political beliefs, their ethnicity, war and genocide are just some of the reasons for people seeking refuge in other countries. It's worth pausing here to say this video will not be dealing specifically with the morality of immigration or morality generally, the politics of nationalism, bigotry and hatred, nationality and borders bill, detention centres, or the withdrawal from Afghanistan. These are all very important aspects of what we're talking about here, but they all need a platform of their own. So whilst I won't be doing that today, we will cover these topics.
Oh, we will.
As with most things in life, it really helps to understand where the common ground is. And to do that, you need to start off with definitions. Immigration. From the perspective of the country of arrival, the act of moving into a country other than one's own country of nationality or usual residence, so that the country of destination effectively becomes his or her new country of usual residence. Asylum seeker. An individual who is seeking international protection in countries with individualised procedures. An asylum seeker is someone whose claim has not yet been finally decided on by the country in which he or she has submitted it. Not every asylum seeker will ultimately be recognised as a refugee, but every recognised refugee is initially an asylum seeker. Refugee. Refugees are defined and protected in international law. The 1951 Refugee Convention is a key legal document that provides international protections for someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. Okay, with the definitions out of the way, you may well have questions. Many. For instance, what is the 1951 Refugee Convention? Why is there such a convention? And what did it do? And isn't 1951 a long time ago? And so is it still needed? Well, in 1950, 2 years after the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it created the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. The agency was to have 3 years to help the millions of Europeans who'd fled persecution, destruction, violence, or lost their homes during the Second World War. After this job of work, it was then to be disbanded. Here we are, over 7 decades later, and the UN Refugee Agency is still in business. Why? There's still a significant number of displaced people in the world. How significant? Over 68 million significant. Of those, 25 million are refugees, people fleeing conflict or persecution, who've crossed an international border, while 40 million are displaced within their own countries. The remainder are asylum seekers, people who may or may not ultimately be determined to be refugees. Much need for a law to define what are asylum seekers and refugees. Boy howdy, sure seems like it. For total clarity, the 1951 Convention, coming from the events and outcomes of World War II, was originally limited in scope to persons fleeing events occurring before the 1st of January 1951 and within Europe. I think we can all see why this would be a scope that would occupy and focus the convention, right? The 1967 protocol removed these limitations and gave the convention universal coverage. Now that we understand that an asylum seeker is an individual who is seeking international protection, and an asylum seeker is someone whose claim has not yet been finally decided on by the country in which he or she has submitted it, and a refugee is someone fleeing persecution and conflict who's crossed an international border and has refugee international protection and is formally recognised by the country in which they claimed asylum. Despite headlines that wish to mislead us, put forward their agenda of hate and division, which services them with numbers of newspapers sold or clicks on their website, the people putting themselves in harm's way do this out of necessity. That's neither here nor there. They have a right to flee their country. They have a right to seek out a safe life for themselves and their children. And they have an international law that says they do. And that all signatories must abide by this. I said I wasn't going to talk about morality during this video, and I won't. However, just the understanding of the definitions should prompt us to ask ourselves the questions of our collective morality towards the plight of our fellow human beings, adults, children, babies alike. I intend to cover the specifics of asylum seekers and refugees that make it to the UK and the experience they have, the Nationality and Borders Bill, detention centres, and the conditions asylum seekers endure during the process the UK government applies. Your thoughts would be welcome, no matter how you see this situation. Please leave them in the comments below. I'm also making a video that will discuss the morality and the philosophy that supports the arguments of lending a hand to those that need refugee status. Again, I'm sure there'll be lots of people that totally disagree and wouldn't want to see a video like that. If you do, or you don't, tell me why in the comments below, please. In closing here, I'll leave you in preparation for those future discussions. Here's a quote from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. "We can't deter people fleeing for their lives. They will come. The choice we have is how well we manage their arrival and how humanely." Okay, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in our future discussions. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. See you in the next one.